Today, Syrian refugees will be arriving in Dorset soon under government plans. A Bournemouth charity says the homeless are being stigmatised. And over 75s may be hit by TV licence fee changes. Hello, welcome to Breaker News. I'm Kelly Lucas. Families who have been displaced from their homes by the conflict in Syria could be coming to Dorset. The Prime Minister David Cameron says there are plans to allow more refugees into the country in a move that the council will look to implement at a local level. Jar Jar Sirapong reports.
After David Cameron says thousands of refugees from Syria will be resettled in Britain, Councillor John Beasley says they're following the government's plan.
We are responsive to the government who are forming the strategy. So it isn't our strategy, it's the government's strategy, and therefore all I can do at the first stage is to repeat that strategy. Our current position, which is informed by the government strategy, as is every local authority in the country.
International Care Network refugees lawyer James Davies says Syrians have suffered a lot. And
I think since last summer, yes, and particularly the publication of the picture of the Syrian Kurdish toddler on the beach in Turkey,
yes,
there has been a wave of goodwill right across the UK towards refugees. Now, locally in this area, it has meant that both in Poole, in Bournemouth, and in the countryside around in Dorset, there have been different groups springing up wanting to respond to the refugee crisis.
Bournemouth locals appear to support the council.
I don't think there'd be that big of a problem. Obviously, longer term, we've got to think about planning for schools and hospitals and infrastructure. But in terms of perhaps the refugees fitting into Bournemouth life, I don't see a problem.
No, I don't have any concern. No, they're humans, we're humans, we live here. I'm not from Bournemouth, so I have no more right to be here than they do.
However, it remains unclear how many people will be settling in Dorset area as government is still planning. Chacha, Breaker News.
The over 75s TV licence is under scrutiny again as the BBC looks for savings. The organisation hopes to reduce costs by cutting the free TV licence. Ruth Sachs reports.
People over 75 may be asked to give up their free TV licence or make a voluntary contribution to it, the BBC has announced. The over 75s licence fee costs the government nearly £700 million a year. The BBC has asked independent experts to advise on how to go about attracting voluntary contributions from over 75s when the government reduces its support. Age Concern thinks it's unfair of the BBC to expect people to have to pay.
The cost of living has gone up and pensions really haven't gone up with the same rate as the cost of living, and they will find it very difficult, and they will have to decide whether they have their television, their food or their heating, and it's most important that people eat healthily, keep warm in the winter. Quite worrying really.
For those who rely on the TV as a lifeline to the outside as well as for company, there are concerns what this change would mean for them.
I have great concerns about those who are on very limited means, and for them it's their lifeline. Maybe can't go out very often, or they just have no friends, and that is their life, and they keep up to date with what's going on in the world through their television, and if they can't afford the fee, they would be isolated. People in Bournemouth have mixed opinions about the licence fee contribution proposal.
Well, we paid our dues, the old people. We've paid all our taxes and that ever since we started work. Why should we start paying for something that government supports?
Discussions are happening as to how the payment of the licence fee would work, whether it would rely on voluntary contributions or would it be means tested. Once the decision is made, it will take effect later this year. Ruth Sachs for BBC South Today in Bournemouth.
Do you give money to homeless people on the streets of Bournemouth? In the wake of a council campaign to advise people against misplaced generosity, a local charity has criticised the view that beggars are mostly drug addicts or alcoholics. Alicia Gonzalez has more on this story.
A Bournemouth charity has spoken out against the stigma associated with homelessness in the wake of a council campaign which claims that homeless people are probably drug addicts and drunks. Under the motto, "Your kindness can kill," the council urges people not to give money to beggars and spend it on local charities instead.
Homelessness can happen to anybody, and it can happen at times when people are in a period of stress or they've illness. We see about 2,000 people a year just here in Bournemouth and Dorset who have got housing, who are experiencing some sort of housing difficulty. This month in particular has been the busiest month in a year, so the number of people seeking our help is going up, not going down at the moment.
We asked the public whether they mind sparing some change for street beggars.
I do give money to homeless people, and what they're spending on ceases to be my responsibility.
When I was homeless, I used to write poetry. That was how I made my money. I used to sell poetry on the street. And a lot of that money did go on drugs.
I had someone come up to me this morning. I was in a bit of a rush. I didn't have any change on me. I think if I had change on me, I would give it to him.
But according to the council, an estimated 80% of people begging do so to support a drug or alcohol addiction.
By giving beggars money, you may feel that you're helping them, but unfortunately a lot of them use that money for either drugs or alcohol. If they give that money to the council, we will use that money through our operations to try and assist those people to try and change their lifestyle.
So is this campaign demonising and selling the dignity of the very people it seeks to protect, or is it a responsible measure to tackle drug and alcohol use amongst beggars? Whichever your opinion, there is no doubt that homelessness is a complex issue yet to be resolved.
Still to come on Breaker News.
We're at Bournemouth University this afternoon where we'll be discussing the new changes to the car parking.
Join me later with the previous weather report at Bournemouth University Talbot campus.
Police have arrested a 15-year-old in connection with the stabbing of a teenage boy yesterday afternoon. The boy was assaulted in an alleyway next to Poole High School, but his injuries are not life-threatening. This follows another stabbing in Poole Park on Saturday evening when a 59-year-old was the victim of a knife attack. There are more patrols planned today by the police to calm residents. The winter period can be tough for abandoned animals to survive without shelter. Despite the efforts of local charities in Dorset, there is still a desperate need to find new homes in the area. Ling Xing Dong reports from the Margaret Green Animal Rescue Centre.
Hundreds of animals are currently waiting for new homes in Dorset. Most of them are cats and dogs. Local animal rescue charities are appealing to people in this region to adopt pets from them. Lucy Captain from Margaret Green Animal Rescue Team says they really need help.
Just here at Church Knoll we have about 30 to 40 cats at any one time, 15 horses, 15 goats. Some animals come into us because they've been abandoned or they've been neglected. We had 2 dogs come in last year who had been tied up. They didn't have any bedding to lie on because they had painful sores, they had muscle wastage, they hadn't had any exercise, and they didn't even know what toys were. So that kind of thing is really difficult. One of the best ways of helping us is to adopt one of our animals because then it frees up a space for another animal to come in.
For animals that were abandoned and tormented, it's more difficult to find new homes, according to Cassia, who takes care of cats in a local charity.
Some cats, they stay with us for a couple months and it's quite difficult to rehome them because of their behavioral problems or medical problems. Some cats, they go home after a couple days.
Animal rescue charities need more money to enable them to look after their long-stay animals. Cassia suggests people can be helpful in other ways.
We always need some scratch posts, more equipment, beddings, blankets.
Although Margaret Green Animal Rescue found new homes for over 700 animals last year, the care crisis shows no signs of abating. Many more abandoned pets are still waiting to be adopted.
And on to the economy now, as our financial expert Lisa Dashinger has the latest on the fluctuating crude oil market.
Good news for all drivers. The price of petrol is still falling. It has fallen to its lowest level in 11 years as commodity markets responded to global overproduction. The World Bank is lowering its forecast for crude oil prices to $37 per barrel from $51 per barrel in its October projections. Further forecasts by Goldman Sachs predict a plunge even further to $20. But why is the oil price so low? This is a logical consequence of the slowdown in emerging economies and the glut of oil on the commodity markets. OPEC member Iran, for example, is now able to export oil after international sanctions were lifted in response to Tehran scaling back its nuclear program. In the US, fracking has added more oil to the global market than the total production of any country in OPEC. Additionally, China, the world's second largest oil consumer after the US, is in recession, driving down costs even further. The UK's oil and gas extraction sector is negatively affected. Looking at the chart, revenues from oil and gas production were £10.9 billion in 2011, but decreased significantly to £2.1 billion by the end of 2015. The oil price is at an all-time low. As shown in the chart, oil has fallen from $105 a barrel in 2012 to roughly $40 for US crude and $44 for Brent crude in Europe this year. All this means a reduced fuel bill and more pounds in your pocket, at least for 2016. That's all for now. Back to you, Kelly.
Parking restrictions have changed at Bournemouth University's car park. Staff and students that live less than 2 miles away have had their permits removed. Over to our correspondent Ruth Sachs at Bournemouth University.
Parking on the university campus has always been a tight squeeze, but it looks to get a whole lot tighter as new restrictions have come into play. Now, people who live within a 2-mile radius can no longer park their cars on the university car park. This has posed a problem for many number of people. I'm joined by Mel Hayward, who works in the cash office at the university. Hi, Mel. Thanks for joining us today. So have you had problems parking on the university car park?
Yeah, I quite often have a problem finding a parking space. Just yesterday, because I'm normally based at the Lansdowne campus, I actually spent about an hour and a half of my working day looking for a parking space and getting back to my office. I only work 6 hours a day, so it was nearly a third of my working day was taken up travelling.
And do you think it's going to encourage more people to use public transport, or is it really just going to frustrate people?
I think it's probably going to frustrate people, and that was part of the problem yesterday. Was there was no direct sort of links. I can't get a bus, sort of from my house to my workplace, a direct bus. So.
Okay, thanks, Mel, and back to the studio.
Thank you, Ruth. The promenade at Southbourne Beach was cornered off on Wednesday due to a landslide caused by heavy rain earlier this week. Part of the passageway between the zigzag at Fisherman's Walk and Gordon Steps had to be closed. The council is warning of the risk of further landslides in the area. They are currently assessing the extent of the damage, but the pathways in the vicinity will remain shut until the authorities are sure there is no danger to the public. People are advised to take extra care along the seafront and to use alternative routes. A new report from Bristol University School of Social and Community Medicine has found that chronic fatigue syndrome, also known as ME, is more common in teenagers than previously thought. Our health reporter Kira Hegarty has been looking at the study in more detail. Kira, thank you for joining us. What is the report telling us?
Hi Kelly. Well, around 250,000 people in the UK are currently suffering from chronic fatigue syndrome. The study is important because it's the largest one of its kind to date. It focuses on teenagers between the ages of 13 and 16, and it found that almost 2% of 16-year-olds suffer from the condition for more than 6 months. As a result, they miss more than half a day of school per week. Dr. Esther Crowley, a consultant paediatrician specialising in chronic fatigue and senior author of the report, says that treatment at this age is effective for most children, but few have access to treatment in the UK. Children who attend her specialist service at the Royal United Hospital in Bath only attend 2 days a week of school on average.
And what are the main symptoms?
Well, the main symptoms are persistent physical and mental fatigue or exhaustion that doesn't go away with sleep or rest, and which generally limits daily activities. It can also include muscular and physical pain, headaches, brain fog, but it also affects memory and concentration, which is a concern for students of this age studying for their GCSEs. People with severe chronic fatigue can't carry out simple daily tasks such as brushing their teeth. They're often confined to bed and can't leave the house.
And with this issue with children having to fight for a diagnosis, what difference will this report make?
Well, children often feel that their concerns and their symptoms are disbelieved or not taken seriously, so it's important for the sufferers themselves. The authors of the report hope that it will lead to a better level of understanding amongst health and education professionals, and also treatment options which now include cognitive behavioural therapy.
Okay, thank you very much, Kira.
Thank you.
On to sport now, and ahead of the weekend's competition, our correspondent Gareth Bailey joins us from Dean Court.
This weekend, Bournemouth play Portsmouth in the FA Cup fourth round at Fratton Park, the first fixture of the two in the competition since the fourth round of 1991, where Portsmouth triumphed 5-1 on the day. Now, with Junior Stanislas' injury at the weekend, obviously Bournemouth will be out him, and with the transfer deadline day fast approaching, there's speculation they might make further moves after signing Benef Afobe for £10 million, their record signing already, and re-signing Lewis Grabban from Norwich. But the team still feels uneasy about spending money, particularly after the financial worries years ago. Now, does that mean that a QPR move for Matt Phillips may or may not transpire? We shall see, but up to the deadline, Bournemouth may be looking to make further moves. Watch this space. From Bournemouth, I'm Gareth Bailey.
Let's head to our weather reporter Ling Xingdong for the latest update.
Good afternoon. Storm Gertrude has brought high winds and overcast skies here, but the average temperature is a mild 11 degrees with lows of 8 degrees towards the end of this evening. However, winds will reach up to 21 miles per hour, making it feel much colder, and showers will start from around 5 o'clock p.m., getting heavier throughout tonight. Heading to tomorrow, it will be cloudy with a few sunny spells. Wind speeds dropping to 15 miles per hour and temperature hovering around 5 to 7 degrees. The mercury is quite high from the time of year, so please don't forget to take your raincoats with you. Happy weekend! Ling Xingdong from Bournemouth University.
Thank you, Ling. I will try to remember my rain jacket. That's all from us today. Thanks for watching Breaker News.